bigger than a hell ring. Moves like you heard on the decks. Glover hold the court and give the chief no suspect. Politics in the mix, like Gumbo Stewart Rich. Spinning tales from Black Wall Street, real life's the pitch. Donnie Glover Show, be more news. Donnie Glover Show, be more news.
Welcome to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. How you doing, man?
Man, feeling well, man.
What's your name?
My name is Cardi Cornish.
And you a legend?
I'm a legend.
You're a legend here in Baltimore City. Where we at right now?
We live in the 17, Pennsylvania Avenue. The legendary Pennsylvania Avenue.
Man, the last time I saw you here, you were doing something just across the street here. What were you doing?
Oh, yeah, I had some food left over from an event. We brung it out. We fed a couple of people, man.
Why you do that?
Nice soul food.
Why you do that?
Man, the love that God has shown me in Christ, man, it overflows. That's how it overflows.
That's right.
We got more than we can use. We got more than we can handle ourselves. We try to let it flow. Let it flow to the next person.
Yeah. We're proud of you, man.
Thank you.
And we're proud of your son.
Thank you.
You're watching BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth.
Business sticks hotter than lava. Got that Midas touch. Stocks and blocks teaching youngins how to clutch. Ears to the concrete, finger on the pulse, dropping wisdom like Hova. Each word a joke. Donnie Glover Show, be more news. 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 Walls painted black, history on lock. Blast off from Tulsa, rebirth like a clock. Markets rising from ashes to days. Dying the narrator, truth runs in veins. Donnie Glover Show, be more news. Donnie Glover Show, be more news. Donnie Glover Show, be more news. Donnie Glover Show, be more news.
First name's Donnie, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. Got with us today, Mr. Doug. Doug, where'd you go?
46% when asked.
Did he disappear that fast? I know I just saw him there. Welcome to Politics 26. And we're talking all things political, not just here in Baltimore, but also beyond. Mr. Maben, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, good brother?
Good. I gotta bring in my co-host here. Doug, how are you? Are you situated?
Man, I am ready for the revolution.
Okay. Where are you from? Where are you located, Doug?
Oakland, California, representing the West Coast. And I'd like to let everyone know that this has been an outstanding opportunity, Donnie, that you have given me to represent West America. And at the end of the day, we are all America, especially if you are Black America.
All right. First up, we got Mr. Aaron Maben. Mr. Aaron, now, Doug, I don't know if you know anything about Baltimore football, but this man's a football icon in this town. When we say football, we see him, okay? So now you know, NFL, all of that good stuff. Welcome back, Mr. Aaron Maben.
How you doing, good brother? I appreciate you having me.
What have you been up to, man? You still up at the school?
Man, I got 1,000,001 things and wear 1,000,001 hats, depending on what day of the week it is. If you're referring, say it again.
The after school program in the rec up there by that school with David.
Yeah,
Warner.
exactly. So me and another former NFL player, Torrey Smith, opened up a rec center in West Baltimore a couple of years ago, back in 2020. And I'm happy to announce that we are finishing up reconstruction on a $25 million expansion of that facility that is due to be done with the reconstruction next month. So we'll be opening up again for the new school year, and we will be back to our after school program and all of the other programs and initiatives that we do through that facility to uplift the people of West Baltimore.
Okay. We'd like to welcome also another co-host, Mr. Andy Pierre. Andy, welcome back.
Thank you. Welcome back. I'm glad to see Aaron Maben on the TV, on the tube. Got
What you
Doug in the building.
what you
We
know
out
about
here.
Aaron?
Hmm?
What you know about Aaron?
That's my good brother right there.
That's my good brother. We go way back like a wave cap, baby.
Exactly. Good to see you, my brother.
Way back
Yeah,
like a
good to
wave
see you.
cap. Okay.
You know, this city ain't but so small, man. We all connected to each other one way or another. It's not no 6 degrees of separation. It's more like 2 here.
Can I say this, Mr. Aaron and Mr. Andy? We may be separated by thousands of miles, but we are all connected together, and we have to combine our power to make sure that what's happening in the West Coast is happening on the East Coast, and what's happening on the East Coast is happening on the West Coast. So it is a pleasure to be here with you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay. So Aaron, you've been working on a political move in honor of a man that few people in Baltimore really know, Walter P. Carter. Tell us about that.
Yes, so you're talking about CLEP. I've been very happy to be partnered with 2 amazing individuals in that initiative. You spoke about the legend, Walter P. Carter. Well, I'm working with his daughter, former Senator Jill Carter, and former City Council member Chris Burnett, on the community leadership and empowerment program that is centered to really educate and teach the individuals that are going to be in our first cohort all the ins and outs of everything from grassroots organizing all the way up the rung to running for political office. And the whole message behind that is there's a lot of things that we've done. As you know, Donnie, my roots are in the grassroots and building from the ground up. But in my career and in all the things that I've done, I would, be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that you can't do everything strictly from that position. You also have to be civically engaged. You also have to have relationships with your policymakers and be in a position to pressure them to do their damn job. So at the end of the day, what we're doing is empowering the community to understand their role in the civic process, and also to empower them from the standpoint of being nurtured and developed by the people in the community that have those experiences from the grassroots all the way up to running for political office and conducting themselves while in political office, so that they're empowered to make their own decisions about how they organize, how they build, and ultimately how they run.
How important is showing these people how to raise money?
Very important. Money is the battlefield that we're least equipped usually to speak on and to act on. And when you talk about politics, so much of our politics is run by money that it would be foolish for us to pursue this endeavor without having a component that addressed just the monetary part of the process in general, and specifically what one needs to do in order to be able to run an effective campaign and be order to win, knowing that they are working against a lot of the time where big money is being spent, knowing that we actually have a role in that side of things too, in terms of organizing. Finances has to be a key component in how we organize, especially when we talk about politics.
So how can people join CLEP?
Well, we've just rolled out the applications for our first cohort in this initiative. That was dropped and made public about a week and a half ago. So if you go on the Walter P. Carter Institution's website, they have a link to the application that anybody that can fill out. We're encouraging all individuals in the city. If you have a young person that is intelligent, that has the propensity for leadership, but doesn't really know the ins and outs of how politics work, this is a great program to get them involved in. It's completely free, so there are no barriers to access when it comes to our community. All you have to have is the initiative to show up and the willingness to keep going. And I think that this is going to be a phenomenal example of how we utilize our organizing ability within community to actually impact the political change that we seek. We don't get it just by stomaching whatever candidates any political party throws at us each election cycle. We get that by developing these candidates ourselves from within our community, from our best and brightest at a young age, and nurturing them in a way that lets them know the type of leadership that we seek. And that allows them to be those type of leaders when they come back into our community, because that community has nurtured them and ushered them into their space of political leadership.
Quick question. What is the website for the Walter P. Carter Institute? Because I'm having a hard time finding it.
Yes, Jill Carter just posted the information for the cohort and the leadership on all of her platforms. If you go to her Instagram page, her Twitter page, there are
Anyway, we
links
can put that in this chat so people watching this broadcast can just click.
Yeah, I'll throw it in the chat right now. Say it one more time.
No, nothing.
I'll throw a link to the website and the link to the chat and the link to the application for people to fill out into the chat, so that everybody can, have a direct link to be able to share with people. But this is really important. It's an important initiative. It's for the fact that we're having an opportunity to put the people in positions of leadership that have already gone through that experience of running and governing in the position to mentor the future leaders of tomorrow based on their own experiences, letting them know the glass ceilings that they hit their heads against, letting them know where the pitfalls are in terms of the journey from being a kid, in the city that's just interested in changing things to actually becoming somebody that's in a position of leadership that is dependent upon to make those key decisions. When you look at our opponents on the right, for a lot of the things that we do, even though this is going to be a nonpartisan cohort, there are a lot of different avenues for people that don't come from cities like Baltimore to get informed and engaged in their civic process very early. You know what I mean? You can go to Annapolis and you can get with the Federalist Society. You can get with all of these lobbying groups that will usher you in a certain way where you learn this very specific language with very specific aims. And then you are deployed into the community to exact those. We don't really have many programs within our own communities that are developing leadership in the same way, but doing it from a community-centered perspective, and the perspective of those who live on the margins of society and not those who genuinely have been in power positions.
Aaron, I think Doug wants to get a question in there.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say, use this terminology. Money is the megaphone to the microphone to your message.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
As you were talking, Aaron, I ain't gonna lie, my mind went back to that event you had down on Charles Street.
Yeah. You talking about the
when they had icicles on the classroom and you took a picture of it.
Absolutely. That was at the school that I was teaching at the time. That was before we opened up the rec center,
You don't remember that, do you, Andy? Aaron's picture went viral. He went viral before viral was viral.
Oh yeah, I think
when we came back from winter break one year when I was still teaching down in Sandtown. Our schools were ice cold. Our heating systems had stopped working over winter break. Nobody notified the parents, the students, the teachers, anybody. And when we came back into our schools after the break, the classes were 30 degrees, and below. So we went and of course,
man, you raised hell. They were bringing in space heaters from everywhere. And Aaron, I'm going somewhere with this.
Mm-hmm.
I just said yesterday, if Baltimore City public school system was majority white parents would not have that. Is that a wrong statement?
No, I don't think. I think that it's very important for us, especially in the conversation that we're having now about political engagement, to look at the communities that have the best school systems in the country. And you look at not just the fact that, you know, their property taxes are getting paid and, you know, they're funded with, you know, federal subsidies that truthfully are supposed to be benefiting our public schools in the city as well. They organize and they lobby around the issues that are important to them. And when they do so, these issues don't just get talked about. It leads to changes in those areas. And those changes benefit their children. And when you look at our community, not only is there a lack of the engagement that it takes to, as you spoke earlier, raise hell on the issue, but the organization around, all right, what is our demand and what are the steps that we're willing to take to going about the process of ensuring that that demand is heard and prioritized. And if it's not, how do we go about replacing the people who are not doing their jobs?
Well,
and
see, I'm glad you
utilizing,
said
you
that.
know, the ballot in that way.
I'm glad you said that. And we get ready to bring you in, John Jones. But back in 1973, a thing came online called the Maryland State Lottery, and they promised money for education. That was the #1 promise. I was 8 years old. I remember this, Aaron. 8 years old. And they said, give us, y'all have the Maryland State Lottery. We're going to take proceeds from that and put it on education. Now, if you remember, now watch this, John Jones, you're going to like this. There was a man who ran the numbers in Baltimore. Before there was the state lottery, we had a numbers man named Little Willie. That was his name. He was known across the country.
Willie Adams, yeah.
And he also used some of his money to help finance black businesses. But they, you know, they hemmed him up, you know, put the law on him, blah, blah, blah. So now the state is running it. But their big promise was money for education. And as he said, just a few years ago, he called a protest because we had classrooms that did not have heat in the winter. And this is a city with a brand new baseball stadium, lottery money, and a brand new football stadium, lottery money. John Jones, welcome to the show. You gotta unmute yourself.
Hey, thank you, my brother. And peace and blessings, everybody on the call. John Jones III. I'm calling in from Oakland, California, East Oakland, California, to be exact. I wear many hats today as a Raider one, but keep in mind, I'm an Oakland Raider, not a Vegas one.
Who's them cats coming across the middle? I know you watched them, Aaron. Who they always talk about in Baltimore on that defense?
You said what now?
The Oakland Raiders. I know you grew up watching them.
Yeah, I definitely watched them coming up.
Who was on that front line, man? Was Sis Trunk on that team?
It depends on what era you're talking about. The early years, you had guys like Howie Long, you had guys like Earl Tatum, you know, you had guys and then
he was a quarterback, the lefty.
Oh, the quarterback. Man, what was his name? I can't remember. I know exactly who you're talking about too. Way back in the day. It'll come to me, but go ahead.
So we got a lot of love for Oakland, man. Nonetheless, whether you're talking football, whether you're talking about the Oakland A's, we love Ricky Henderson, and we damn sure love the Black Panthers. Give it up for the Black Panthers, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And let it be known, it's nothing but love from Oakland and Baltimore. And I want to share this real quick. I was watching this Dave Chappelle stand-up, right? I think it's the old one. I didn't repeat the joke. It's from like 20 years ago. And this is what he basically said. He was talking about Baltimore. He says, Baltimore is so bad, no disrespect, that Tupac's mama moved from Baltimore to Oakland. So that should tell you what's going on in BMO. Even though he went to Moran City. But I just want to leave it off there.
Joke at all.
There are a lot of similarities between the cities, though. I've done a lot of organizing with folks that have roots in Oakland. And even
the Oakland's what 30? What percent black is Oakland?
Oakland used to be 47% African American. Now we're down to 20% or less. Gentrification process is designed to kick black people out of Oakland. And one of the things I tell many black people, and I had a I had a meeting with a union official, which is a trade, carpenters, laborers, operating engineer, drywall plaster. When they get rid of all the Hispanic via ICE, they're going to need us in these trade unions. And I'm looking at the opportunities that we have now. We need to start preparing our brothers and sisters for carpenters, laborers, operating engineers. Just in LA alone last week, at one job site, ICE went in and arrested 60 Hispanic people, shut the job down. So the point I'm making here is the same problems that you guys are having on the East Coast, we're having on the West Coast. And John Jones, I've had him on my show. I've had him and his mother on my show. And this brother is an impeccable brother on how we have got to start uniting, collaborating, talking, just like the brother is doing in Burkina Faso. Ibrahim
Traore.
Come on, man. Ibrahim Traore. We all down with Burkina Faso. Ouagadougou. Stop playing, man.
Well, wait a minute.
Come on, man. Chop.
This brother showed that his country has 6 times more gold than America. Once you stop stealing from our people, we ain't gonna need no help.
But he's also bringing together other Francophone countries across the Sahel and West Africa. Senegal just kicked the French out. This is a liberation movement. They're kicking the European out of Africa. That's what we need to understand. And it's going to crush them. John, what's your story, John?
Yeah, I want to start by, I appreciate the conversation, right? I listened to what Brother Aaron was sharing. And I think for us as a people, this connects to my story. The purpose of political power is to obtain economic power, right? That's through policies, through legislation, through budgetary allotments. In order for that to work, it's going to consist of 2 key things. The first is what I call authentic community engagement. Brother Aaron, you were speaking on that because in Oakland, we call this the nonprofit industrial complex of the universe. We got a lot of people paid to talk with folks, but they're afraid to tap in. They don't know nobody in Oakland, right? But they're professional and paid operatives.
We call them poverty pimps. We got them in Baltimore too. Exactly. Poverty pimps.
Poverty pimping, trauma.
Some of them black, some of them white.
Yeah. So my story is this, and I want to connect this to the Black Panthers, because first of all, that's the missing piece. The most important thing is for us to educate ourselves. It's not enough to say the system is racist. What does that mean? You know, Dr. Huey P. Newton said, power is the ability to define phenomena and make it act in a desired manner. So the purpose of organizing is we got to organize from truth. We have to educate ourselves on the history. See how you brothers was breaking down the history of before the state took over the lottery, brothers ran numbers, right? When we tied the 2 together, because people want to eat, and that's the whole point. I always share this, again, from an employment and economic perspective. If you go back to prohibition, right, the government made alcohol illegal. Brothers started hustling. We heard about Al Capone, but brothers was eating off that too. Government stepped in and said, nope, they eating, they made it legal. We don't own innocence. You go to the 1930s, the 40s, and the 50s. You mentioned it. People was running numbers. Malcolm X, when he was Malcolm Little, he was running numbers. Government said, we're going to make this the lottery, right? You go to the 60s and the 70s. I know y'all in B-Mode.
Well, don't forget the Black Wall Streets when we tried to do it the legal way and they bombed that to the ground, burned it. So whether we went legal or illegal, yeah, they blocking every highway.
Exactly. And the reason why I'm starting on that underground economy is based on the fact that they have locked us out of the mainstream economy from day one, right? So when you always say the will to survive will always outweigh the will to obey, right? You can't put people in a bad situation, make that situation worse, and somehow expect them to come out as better people. You get what I'm saying? So my story started off, I'm born in East Oakland, 1974. I always say that the Panthers were before my era. I grew up under people like Felix Mitchell, right? The first drug kingpin in Oakland. For a young black male like myself, I always share the story. In 1986, I was 12 years old, and 3 things happened. And mind you, I was reading by age 4. I skipped from the 1st or 3rd grade. I won every academic achievement in my school in 6th grade, 1985. So we're talking about 1986. 3 things happened. The first was the first time I was slammed against the wall by the police and called the N-word. Now, my people from the South, right? I'm living in the West Coast. Like, what is this N-word you speak of? Right? And I was laughing because the guy was mad. It was a grown cop. He was so mad, he turned pink. And as a 12-year-old, I couldn't fathom, why is this guy mad at a kid? Because I'm a kid. I'm a child. But that right there began to signify what we call like no more innocence related to childhood, the adultification of youth. The second thing I saw, right, was Felix Mitchell's funeral. And again, what he represented to our communities. At that time, we were plagued by poverty. You start with the Reaganomics of early 80s, these things. To see someone make it out for us as a young man, a boy, 12 years old. What is the way out of this ghetto? Right? Because at that time, athletes wasn't it. We wasn't really seeing that. We had a lot of athletes from Oakland, don't get it twisted, but from a street perspective, right? Not having a lot of male role models. The role model
I
was
played with one of the realest ones. Marshawn Lynch was one of my teammates. So yeah, he is Oakland as they come right there.
Yeah, from North Oakland. You get what I'm saying? So when you see these things, right? I was at a point to where, and the third thing was this: I was walking down the street with my 2 older cousins. For the first time in my life, I was shot at close range. I had the little Walkmans on. This is back when Walkmans was on. I'm listening to NWA. I'm a kid. All of a sudden, you know, my cousin did the usual, what y'all looking at? And they started running. I looked behind and I could see the guy point his gun out. And I froze. And they talk about that PTSD, you know, fight or flight. They forget freeze. You can freeze. I have no reference point. I'm a child. Why is someone willing to take my life broad daylight? You get what I'm saying? And when a bullet hit the stop sign, it broke me out my stupor. And I started running, right? So I caught up with my cousins and we were laughing, you know, typical teenage bravado. Oh, man, they some suckers. But at night, something hit me real hard, y'all. Something told me if I'm going to survive this changing community I'm growing up in, then I have to adopt the mentality just as ruthless in order to survive. Right? So that led me to being incarcerated. I ended up doing 2 separate bids. And in the course of my incarceration, 2 things happened. And I'm going to wrap it up on that one. The first thing is my second bid. So 2 bids. One was I did from 16 to 24 years old in California Youth Authority, 8 years. My second bid, I did 5 years in prison on a separate offense. And the first part is this. I always say this. I always make sure I got a job in 2 places. The first was the kitchen, so I could eat physically, and the library, so I could eat mentally and intellectually. And my joke was always this: most people pay money to go to college to be graded on a curriculum they did not develop with the pressure of having to take this test. Me, because when you're in prison, you have access to the entire statewide library. I have the freedom to read, to educate, and I was being paid by taxpayers, granted 25 cents an hour, right? That's my joke. But here's the second thing that happened. January 1st, 2009, that is when Oscar Grant was murdered by BART police. I didn't know Oscar, didn't know anything about his family. In fact, I was serving time in Washington State. My buddy knocked on my cell door and he said, "Hey, JJ," that's what they called me. He said, "They acting fool in your hometown." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "They down there riding." I'm like, "That's nothing new. What happened?" "Oh, police killed somebody." "That ain't nothing new. They killed 2 of my friends." It wasn't until later on that evening when I saw it was on CNN and I realized this thing was global and something spoke to my spirit. Something said, you're going to go home and you're going to be part of change. You're going to go back and you're going to help your community. And mind you, I have 5 years left. So I dedicated myself to reading. I knew it was very important to not just say I think or I feel. Whatever my position is, I should be able to back that up with some historical facts because people can argue with where they argue with, but you can't argue with facts.
Andy, you want to jump in here and bring some perspective?
That man is a real hard act to follow up because he touched on.
Wait a minute, Andy. That's the West Coast talking. Want to work with the East Coast, brother?
No, I mean the reality of the streets as we know them today, and in the past, honestly, is that we have to constantly reinvent ourselves. The streets has to constantly reinvent itself to keep putting food on the table. And we could try to criminalize black behavior. Like, well, not we can try. The government can try to criminalize black behavior as much as possible to continue to keep us as a secondary, even tertiary class of citizens. But we have to be a little bit more conscious about how we engage and educate the next generation of young people, because right now they feel as though they are the problem. Like, between media and just various things being said to them and stuff that, and just the way people have their demeanor towards these young cats, they would
And the way we treat them.
Mm-hmm. It's like
We
they
as
do feel
society
like they are
contribute
the
to that.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we know for a fact as adults that they are in fact a solution to all the problems that we're having right now, we still continue to treat them as the problem, which prevents them from wanting to even be a part of this whole movement to push back on, the oppression of black folks. They're not seeing this thing as something that affects them because they're so deep in the trenches that they don't see what outside of the trenches looks like,
Brother
and they
Aaron,
can't
we
fathom or
got the most
imagine, and
entitled.
that's a failure on our part as the
Aaron, we got some of the
as the
most
adults have.
entitled young people in the world.
Say that one more time.
We have some of the most entitled young people in the world.
But it's not an
And what is
entitlement
that?
based
No,
on
hold
what.
on, man.
Hold on. Let me get this, bro. I got it, Andy. And what is that perspective got us?
Yeah, exactly. Nowhere.
What is that perspective got us? Let me tell you something. We've
going
always been a bravado-driven people. We've always been.
No. I think maybe you're missing my point. When you got to the NFL, you got there through one major thing: hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Do our young people have that same work ethic today?
No.
Plenty of our young people have that same work ethic. I think that
Don't-
the fact that we pathologize our young people the way that
No,
we're
I'm not
doing right now.
pathologizing. This is an observation as a 60-year-old man. The things that we got that they get away with today, we could never. The things they say,
I can acknowledge.
The thing is,
I can acknowledge that there are definitely things that I couldn't have gotten away with that certain kids that are in households today tend to be able to get away with. Something that I will acknowledge, though, that I don't think is often present when we have these conversations is how many things I see our youth today capable of doing that I was never capable of doing.
Mhm.
I was in an emotional.
There's another factor.
Say it again.
There's another factor that I would like everybody to weigh in on is that the diminishing return of hard work. Like, you got a lot of adults wasting the labor and hard work and the intellect of these young people just because they don't feel like doing menial tasks. And you got these young, like, I know one kid who has, since he was 14, he's been working for some nonprofit organization that's supposed to help young people, young black people, especially those involved in the system, get into entrepreneurship and this, that, and the other. They don't do jack.
Right.
They don't do nothing to help those children. And so, like, that's the environment that they have to grow up in, is that not only are they seeing that the people who are doing bad are the ones getting the best returns, but when they do follow what we're saying and they do go work hard and they do go do this, that, and the third, there's a diminishing return. They're not getting much of anything for their efforts.
And I gotta also say, to piggyback off of what Andy just said, because he was cooking with that, when they look at us, they see a reflection of what these principles that we drive towards them has gotten us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, just like he touched on, like, I'll give you an example. The same way I help regular folks off the street get placed with resources, jobs, housing, all of that kind of stuff, I'm seeing a lot of college educated folks now that are having just as hard a time getting a job as the folks with no experience in the field. I'm seeing a whole lot of people that have things on their resume, that have skills, that have years of service, that have, you know what I mean? All of the things that they need that society used to tell them, hey, if you go to college, if You put this many years in at a company. If you do all of these things, you'll be okay. Those people
Aaron,
aren't okay. A lot of
Aaron,
those folks aren't okay right now.
Aaron, let's just be clear. Let's just cut down to the basics. If you ain't hooked up with a house Negro, you ain't hooked up. Period. This country has been built on the house nigga, the house Negro who has lived in the house of the master or in the basement of the master, and who have thrived and who have come to live good, to eat good. And if you don't play to his game, then you are cast down, no matter how educated you are. And let me be clear here. We got too many house Negroes controlling Black people in this country, and we've got to stop it. We've got to point it out. We've got to point out nonprofit organizations like the NAACP, not all of them, but they control the masses. And the master, like Trump, Elon Musk, and all those billionaires, they throw crumbs at these house Negroes to control the field Negroes.
All right, Mike. Doug, share the mic. We also got celebrity worship, Aaron. We have celebrity worship in the Black community, where the real heroes were your mother and father, my mother and father, everyday people that go to work. We are now challenged by this thing right here. All our politicians are challenged by it. This is the new television. Young people don't even watch television, they tell me.
Right.
They watch this. And so we've got to devise some new and better methods to continue to reach our young people. I don't blame the young people. I really blame them.
I blame, and that's why I posed my argument in the way that I did. They have the society that we've handed them.
You're right.
There's literally a celebrity in the presidential office right now for no other reason than the fact that he's a celebrity. He's not a successful businessman. He's a felon. You know what I mean? Like, all of the things that he has done, he has failed at. But you know what he's been great at? Controlling public perception of him. So when you look
Ronald
at
Reagan, is it Reagan?
And they see everything from the president all the way down to the regular folks that they interact with in their community, they see the folks that we're celebrating. We're not celebrating our electricians, our plumbers, our firefighters, our bus drivers. We celebrating these pseudo celebrities that paint themselves as our leaders and influencers on social media. So I don't blame our young people for that.
The thing is,
go ahead.
We also
I piggyback and expand on what you're saying is that so much of our society, so many of our young people are influenced by people who don't look like us, because that's where all the big Jewish money's at. Is that a bunch of people who control the media environment who don't look like us, and so they definitely control who is idolized in our community, because that's who gets the spins, that's who gets put on TV, that's who gets promoted on social media. Is those people. Like, who knows? Like, the reality of what happens in the Carters, what the Carters feel in towards society. We don't really know what any of these celebrities stand for, or what they really feel about it.
That's what we know, Andy. That we are taught not to like ourselves. We are taught not to love ourselves for our beautiful Blackness. Our sisters don't even want to wear bushes no more.
And how do we?
It goes deeper than that. It goes deeper than that. Even touching on.
I put up pictures of Black women with big afros on Facebook.
No, we counteract it through our lived experiences and the example that we set. We counteract it by loving Blackness unapologetically. We counteract that by speaking affirmation to one another instead of using our tongue as a weapon against one another. We counteract that by modeling the example of the society that we seek to create. And in doing that, we can spend a certain amount of time calling out the reality that we all can see with our own two eyes. But my problem is we spend a lot less time actually building both the institutions and the societal norms that we seek to be modeled in our youth and in the people that we interact with every day. Like for example, case in point, you talked about the rec center that we built, right? How many years have we been talking about the city closing up our rec centers.
Since
If we had as
2014.
many people,
2010. Oh,
if
actually,
we had as
spoke
many
to
people
Brown
over
Center.
the past decade and a half actively engaged in the process of acquiring these buildings, getting them functional and starting to serve within them, how many examples of these new reformed structures could we see by at this point? So I believe that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can call out the areas where we're deficient, but we also have to be just as engaged in building the alternatives that we seek. Otherwise, we're just blowing smoke.
Well, you make
too many
a great
people
point.
have gotten comfortable speaking truth to power by typing some words in a social media engine and say they doing the work. You're not doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
You do the work by showing up in community and actually putting your body on the line. You do the work by giving your intellectual property towards creating new ideas.
Wait a minute, Aaron. You show the work by showing up to a city council meeting. You
Absolutely,
do the work
yes.
You do the work by showing up to a county supervisor meeting. We cannot ascertain economic power until we ascertain political power.
Actually,
I agree with you, but before we can ascertain political power, we need to break down the walls of division within the Black community. Like the idea, like Haiti would not be an independent nation now if the house Negroes and the field Negroes did not get together to kill all the white people and burn their houses down. That joint would have never happened. Bookman would have never been able to get the poisons from the countryside into those households, into their tea, into their food to kill them off. That would have never happened. So that's the fact of the matter is, any takeover that we want to put together has to start with unity. It just has to. And the fact that I remember there used to be a saying growing up that white people hide all their knowledge in books. And growing up, I've come to notice that Black people hide all their knowledge in music. And the problem that we're seeing nowadays is that our music is being controlled by people who don't look like us.
And you are 100% right. The white man has definitely learned, if we divide the Negro Black generation, we get a few house Negroes, give them crumbs.
Doug, who is this house Negro that pissed you off? Because who is this person? Put a name on him. Who is it?
If they struck a nerve.
Look, we got a lot of them out here, man.
Wait. Don't let me start. Let me be clear here. Donnie, you have allowed me to have a podcast on your platform for the last 3 or 4 years. I can promise you all, within the next 2 to 4 months, I'm going to be exposing some of the billionaire companies that are paying off some of these house Negroes to suppress the masses of the Black people. And I can't wait. I can't wait.
We can throw the one big name up against the wall and then work down from there. Jim Clyburn.
Hey,
Elon Musk. Elon Musk family controls in South Africa some of the most richest mineral mineral production in the world. That's how he got the money to become the richest man in the world.
Even though he's South African, he ain't no house Negro to me. We're gonna have to come up with another distinction for him. He might be African.
I don't respect his African Americanism.
I'm saying Elon Musk is using his money to control these house Negroes in America.
I get where you're coming from. Elon Musk is out there. George Soros is out there. You know what I mean? You have a whole lot of Peter Thiel and
how about Under Armour in Baltimore? They bought the entire city council, didn't they?
Listen, it was a hostile takeover.
But power
I'd be a hypocrite, and I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't admit that they threw some money to us for our expansion of the rec center. You know what I mean? Gave us a new basketball court and all of that. But the way that I see that is,
got enough.
If you're in the city and you're taking so much of the capital from the city, you owe us that investment. You owe our community the investment of making sure that we have resources like that. So
cancel all our student
with
loans.
I'll partner with them towards the end of providing resources because that's what they were supposed to be doing in the first place. But I'd be foolish not to acknowledge that, these companies, they came in, they put their money down on the table, and it was a hostile takeover of whatever they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And that always has come off the backs primarily of our community.
Come on, John.
What's interesting to me in this conversation when we talk about power, right? Because I heard two things. I heard numbers and I heard money. I heard numbers. I heard unity. I think this theme of unity is what we really got to do a deep dive on. Because for me, I think the first challenge becomes Black people are not monolithic. So we speak in general term when we say Black, as if all Black are Black. It's not. We've never been like when we came over. We didn't come over as Africans. We came over as our tribal identities. It was a system that's trying to force us to be one because it's easier to oppress if everyone buys into a concept, right? Because race is really a social construct. So my point is, from a power perspective, I'm speaking psychologically. I learned to switch my thinking because I think we approach it with a deficit perspective, right? We feel outnumbered and out-organized and outfunded. But again, Andy, you mentioned Haiti. The Black Panther Party only had 10 hardcore members when Huey got arrested for the cop. It took a few people plus action. The difference is action. You don't need a lot of people. You just need people making moves. Once you start making moves, the rest go get in line. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean by looking at the history and learning from that. Again, they give credit to the bus boycott, to Dr. King and Rosa Parks. May they rest in power. But no, that credit goes rightfully so to Claudette Colvin and the other 5 Black women who were on that bus and told that white man, I ain't getting up. It was those 5 of them, because one backed out, whose name was on the original lawsuit, and they overturned discrimination through the same legal process that disenfranchised them, right? So my point is, for me, I look at this as, and I want to tie it in with young people. The problem is our American education system always want to start our history, his story, with slavery. Who the hell want to study the lowest at our time as a people? There's nothing in it to a generous sense of empowerment. Me, I understand why Europeans enslaved Black people, because I know about Mansa Musa, and I know when he made it rain, dropping gold off on his pilgrimage to Mecca when the white folks was living in caves. They heard about these rich white Black people from West Africa, and they sent them over to America. They said, hey, the people you're looking for went on ships over there. So my whole point is, when we know who we are as a people.
John, I gotta jump in. You kind of contradicted yourself. I'm just now, man, you saying that Black people were here in the Americas long before the slave ship.
I said when Europeans went to Africa, they said they went over there. But that's a whole nother thing, though. I'm leave that alone.
Don't forget about the Moors. They were here before.
When Columbus and them got here, there was already folks here, and they were very clear about the description of those people. That's a completely different conversation.
But that's what I mean by, in terms of who has defined our history. Who are we? Where are we going? Where we are going is defined by where we came from. Where we came from is not currently being defined by us. We got to get to a place where we define our own stories, our own narratives, irrespective of whatever the system throws at us. And to stop being reactive, because there's always going to be some type of crisis that pops its head up every 2, 3, 5 years, right? And then we get thrown off. Right?
You know why I disagree? I think we monolithic because we have the same damn enemy. If that don't make you monolithic, then
that doesn't make everybody doesn't perceive us as having the same enemy, and that's the problem.
Yes,
you're always going to have. Malcolm talked about the house Negro and the field Negro. You always Martin Luther King liked to talk about the moderates. When he said moderate, he was really talking about.
Wait, Aaron, let me just tell you this. My daddy been dead for 11 years. His name was Artis Blackshear. My name is Art Douglas Blackshear. My daddy taught me one thing. We brought house Negroes out of the South to become house Negroes in the North.
Right. And you're always going to have people that prioritize their own individual success or financial gain over that of
and
the
that's
collective.
why Harriet Tubman carried that Colt 45.
Exactly. But what I'm saying to you, bro, here's the thing. I'm just as militant as you are in terms of my personal perspective. But when it comes time to organize and build, I have to understand the fact that all of the Black people that I deal with aren't necessarily going to think like me, aren't necessarily going to share my politic, and aren't necessarily going to share some of the more revolutionary thought processes that I have in terms of what the way forward is. But you know what we can agree on? We can agree on a direction that the ship needs to be headed in. We might not agree exactly on all of the ins and outs and turns that we need to take on that road, and that's okay. Because part of what makes us beautiful, part of what makes us brilliant is our diversity. The diversity of experience that we have from our lived experiences, and the diversity of knowledge and information that we gain from our lived experiences in these bodies, right? We need to be using those as assets more so than we use them as barriers to divide us. And our problem is we focus on the areas where we disagree for so long that we can't build around a common Black agenda that everybody can get behind and say, hey, these few bullet points right here benefit all of us. Let's leave the rest of the stuff for our individual organizing. But when it comes time for us to vote as a collective, when it comes time for us to prioritize where we're throwing our money as a collective, these are institutions and systems that we all can agree serve us best. We need to look at them in healthcare and housing and education and recreation and in terms of business and enterprise. And until we can do that, we're destined to have the same recycling conversation of arguments that we use as barriers to stop us from building.
There's a lot of progress being made also in the various components. Everybody may not work together, but we do try to use this show to make people aware. So on that very note, Liberty Road has a problem. Now, John, you got Baltimore City and then surrounded by Baltimore County. A lot of the people who used to live in the city moved to the county. The problems we face here in the city, they eventually face in the county. And then some people say that's where all the drug dealers live in the county, then they come to the city. But politically, along that corridor from the city to the county, as we move further and further out to the county, we get politically apathetic. Would you agree, Aaron?
Yeah, typically for those well-to-do counties, especially, yeah.
Black people out Liberty Road don't vote as intentionally as Black people in Baltimore City.
But there's also a lot of social division that's happened between those spaces, though, which has also been by design. You know what I mean?
You got a Black man running and you got a Jewish man running. Who are we going to support? Julian Jones, Izzy Patoka.
But Donnie,
I feel like Black people are going to support whoever comes through the Liberty Road corridor and ask them for their vote. Whoever hits them doors, comes through the Liberty Road corridor and asks them for their vote. And the reason why I can say that very confidently is because when I was working the Fugate campaign, we dominated the Liberty Road corridor because that's pretty much where we spent all of our damn resources, knocking on them doors, talking to them voters, we're putting our name, face, and messages in front of all of the Black voters. Now, granted, the problem with that race was we accidentally triggered a historic white turnout to stop my candidate. So, the calculus needs to be refined a little bit, but the Liberty Road corridor can be one. You can flip it. It just requires you to come out there and actually engage the Black people. And my suggestion is for the Black candidate is engage your people first. Talk to your folks first, because you know how old folks are. Like, hey, why didn't you come to me first? How you gonna come to me last? Like, I'm just an afterthought, and they have a freaking good reason. Why ain't you gonna talk to your people first, knowing that we're gonna be the ones scared with you?
Andy, let me clarify that quickly. The politicians, they get this big map, and it shows the number of people who vote in each district. For example, in Oakland, California, and Montclair, Piedmont, where rich white people live, there's a 70 to 95% voting percentage. So when politicians vote, when politicians run, they go up there first. But when they go into the flatlands of Oakland, there's only a 15 to 30% vote. So the politicians say, well, we're not going to put our resources down there because they can't change the election results. And until what I've done, every other day, I go down to, in my neighborhood, to the liquor stores, to the brothers who aren't educated about how this process works. And I said, look, man, in 2026, I'm going to need 1,000, if not more, votes. And I'm going to bring voter registration. I'm going to bring information on who's running. I'm going to bring information on legislation. And what they've told me, okay, dude, if you do that, then I'll get my mama to vote for this. I'll get my cousin to vote for this. I'll get my daughter to. Until we start doing that, we are going to be at the bottom of the pile. And that's what the white man wants us to be, at the bottom of the pile, uneducated politically.
We got to give. Sorry, Aaron, we got to give John a minute because we almost out of here.
I'll say this real quickly. I appreciate this conversation. See, I'm listening. I want to mention I'm also a member of the African American Sports and Entertainment Group. We just made history in Oakland by purchasing the Coliseum complex. This represents the largest transfer of public land to Black people in the history of Oakland, California. Why that's important? Because we're talking about, when we talk about wealth, right? Black people are 13% of the population of this country, but we only represent half of a percent, right? But we represent half of 1% of the wealth. So to me, that's the thing. If we're not talking about shifting wealth and resources, then we're just talking, right? So we got to get to that place too. We got to understand everything is to get to the next place. It's not voting and then go home and don't do nothing. We have to continue to do our part. And the last thing I want to say with young people in particular, I'm 51 years old. My youngest son is 10. We have to be honest. When we get older, we have a tendency to romanticize our childhoods. Every generation does that. They look down on the next generation. When I was a kid, the people before me, y'all dumb. And people of my generation, I say, I would never do that. Because you know what? It looks different for them. We didn't have social media. I mean, on this note, think about this. If you ever experienced being bullied in high school, right? Your mama can just take you out and put you in another school. These kids got social media. You ain't safe nowhere. The ability to share information and to be exposed to things is something we have never experienced. So we have to do
all they need is 5 minutes with my daddy's leather belt. That's all they need is 5 minutes with my daddy's leather belt. We save better attention. Come on, Aaron, take us on.
We can agree and disagree, but that's my time. I do appreciate y'all.
Spank your children. That's what I say. Come on, Aaron.
Two things. One thing that I can say is pretty much universal across the spectrum of all Black people I know is all of us are pretty well versed in the language of tough love. One of the issues is a lot of us aren't very well versed in any other language except for the tough love. And our kids are paying the price for that in ways that it's hard to quantify in conversations like this without just going through the data. And what I try to do, both as an educator, as an advocate, and as, you know, a big homie to a lot of these kids, is to not just meet them where they are in terms of being able to accept them for being human beings that are on a trajectory like we all once were, but also to understand what it is that they need from me in order to become the best versions of themselves. Our kids have never had a shortage of people in society telling them how they're the problem, but they got much less examples of folks that highlight for them exactly how they're the solution, and then go about establishing and building resources that edify them towards that end. You know,
just teach them that to whom much is given, much is required. Because a lot of people these days, they want, but when you say give something, we don't know.
But we have to be examples of what it looks like to do that.
We got plenty of examples out there. We got a lot of examples.
But like anything,
if they see that dope man all day, every day.
Say it again.
You see him too. We go to the same store. They see the dope man every day also.
And they also see me every day.
But what you said, what you gentlemen are saying is the same thing that's happening on the East Coast is happening on the West Coast. The exact same thing. We're not getting any positive, logical, educational training to our young Black people. And unless we teach them that we need to unite, we need to understand that the white man is dividing us because we aren't together.
And with that being said, I need you to encourage any young leader you know, or anybody that's in the community that's active that you say needs to be one of our leaders, to go ahead on and apply for this CLEP program. because within this program, we are going to be teaching them all of the skills for them to actually go out and to run for these boards and to be elected to positions of office, so that we can actually be having people from our community who we have helped to nurture and develop be the ones that are in those spaces that are advocating for us. Because at the end of the day, like, we can't be mad at the system for doing what the system does. The system is already operated in a certain way, but we have to start to be proactive instead of reactive. And what it looks like is this: nurturing and developing these young minds that will eventually be our future leaders, and giving them all the tools necessary for them to advocate for us the way that we need to be advocated for.
Gentlemen, we'll be back next week, same time. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening, world.